Helsa, I figured I haven't done a nightly video in a while, and I've been working my ass off, so I figured it was time for me to do another one. Before I begin, I would like to send help to all my brothers and sisters who uphold the wokeness or Odinist ways, who do everything they can to enlighten our people and to turn our people back to our original ways. To you, I raise a PBR. I hope I don't get accused for being a drunk because I raised a drink to all my brothers and sisters. One of the things that many of us have to remember is that the knowledge of what we have extends back to the very beginning of our existence. Our ancestors have always believed in our gods and goddesses, and they've always imparted the knowledge to the younger so that when they grow up, they can in turn impart this knowledge to their children. And we are a part of a great line of children who have been taught this kind of knowledge. And it's up to us to continue to impart with that, because wokenism, or our belief in our gods and goddesses, it can live with us or it can die with us. And one of the ways that we impart that knowledge is through our actions. Actions is the best form of teaching. It's the best form of proving anything. And one of the things that I see a lot of is we can get so caught up on learning the book knowledge. And this is good. It's very helpful. But we have to remember, book knowledge is only meant to be a guide. It's only meant to put us in a direction. The best form of learning is studying the laws of nature, or looking at those who have walked this path longer than us and looking at the examples that they set. Because most people, when they're attracted to something, on many cases, they're not attracted to how much knowledge a person had in their head. They're attracted to the character of that person. They're attracted to the way that these people deal with each other, the way that they deal with outsiders, the way they raise their families, the way they talk, the way they walk. This is what attracts most people to our way of life. And I think sometimes we forget that. We forget that blood has been spilled from our ancestors to ensure that the knowledge of our gods and our goddesses are kept alive and that it's handed to us. There were sacrifices that were made. And in many cases, these sacrifices were not selfish sacrifices. They were selfless sacrifices. They were sacrifices that were made by men and women who understood that in order for the knowledge of our gods and goddesses to advance, in order for this type of knowledge to survive, there would be sacrifices that would have to be made. And this sacrifice can be sacrifice in the form of money. It can be sacrifice in the form of time. It can be sacrifice in changing our ways. Because as we all know, the hardest thing for us to do is to sacrifice our egos and to sacrifice what we think for the greater good. Many of us would allow our egos to destroy our families, to destroy our tribes, to destroy our kindreds, even to destroy the people who are around us. And this is why it's so important for us to study, and not only study, but exemplify what it is that we are learning so that other people could learn how to apply the knowledge that they have been given. It's easy to go on Facebook and put a post up and expect everybody to understand. But for the most part, if it's not exemplified, then the average person will not catch on to it. You know, I read a post, I put a video out this morning, my Positive Thought project. And there was a brother who commented, and I hope this brother does not mind me mentioning his name, but it's the brother John Evans, sorry brother. John Evans told a story of how he went to the gas station and he seen somebody there who was in dire need of some money to get gas so that he could get home. And the brother said that people walked by him and they wouldn't give him money. But yet they went in, bought junk food and lottery tickets. But the brother stated that he gave him money, $10, paid for his gas, and that as he took the time out to talk to him, he had realized that this individual was real lonely. His daughter had died, and she was his backbone. And from the story the brother was telling, you could tell that this individual was really lost. And it really hit home with me, because how many of us claim to be wokeness and odinist, and we can walk by another white person and just immediately pass judgment? Or we can walk by another white person and we can see that they need help, but we won't help. And I'm not saying that we should go out and help every white person that extends their hand, but there comes a point in time where we really have to exemplify the teachings of the Havamal. And I believe that if we did that, and this is knowledge that is not, it starts off as book knowledge, but it becomes applicable knowledge. It becomes knowledge that once it's applied, then it begins to transform our lives. And we really get in tune with the ways of our ancestors. We really get in tune with what the gods and the goddesses try to teach. And I hear so many people on Facebook talk about, well, our gods use trickery. Odin or Wotan wasn't perfect. Thor was a maniac. Well, before you're so quick to attribute human qualities and traits to our gods and goddesses, why don't you go back and look at why the action was committed? Then you will learn that every story within the Poetic Edda, every story, every myth that is handed to us is meant to teach us something. It's meant to make us better. Even if the story at first sight seems harsh or it seems cruel. There's a reason for everything. And we need to start being that example. Could you imagine a person who you meet? He might be hungry, might even be homeless. And could you imagine how many people had walked by this person and not given him anything, not even took the time out to help him? But you stopped and you gave a stranger something to eat. Do you know that that one act of kindness could very well be what brings you or brings that individual to our way of life? Because in the Havamal, Wotan tells us, be careful of which stranger you basically turn away, because you could very well be turning away one of the gods. There's a story in which a king, the god Wotan, had granted him everything, given him a kingdom, given given him everything he had ever wanted. And one day, Wotan shows up to him, and this king has Wotan hung or strapped to two poles, and he went to boasting. And I'm paraphrasing the story because it's a very long story. But the king boasts that everything he got by his own hands. And Wotan told him, he said, you will take a few steps and you will fall on your own sword. And in the myth or the story, it happened exactly as the god Wotan said it would. And what's the moral of that story? The moral of that story is everything you have, everything you will have, it's because the gods blessed you with the abilities to get it. You had to earn it. You had to work for it. But they blessed you with the ability to get it. So let us never forget that we are part of a long legacy that has been handed to us. And as Wotans or Odinists, it's our job to keep that legacy going, not only in imparting knowledge as far as speaking, writing, in music, but we also have an obligation to impart that knowledge within our actions. Wotanism does not teach us to become hard-hearted. It does not teach us to become narrow-minded. It teaches us to open our minds and open our hearts and to act nobly. If we study our ancestors would never turn a stranger away. And the reason for this is because if we study the teachings of the Havamal, it teaches us how to deal with strangers, how to deal with each other, how to talk and when not to talk, how to talk to a fool and when not to talk to one, how not to talk to the wise and when to listen. So let us always remember, we come from a long chain that has action as its links. And let us be another link. Let us be another noble action. And as I always say, let us be those that when our children grow up, that they raise horns in our names. That when the fires are lit, they tell our sagas. They tell of how noble we were, how giving we were. and how understanding we were when our brothers and sisters make mistakes. With that said, as I always say, fuck their world. It's our time. But it's only our time if we're willing to act upon it. Held my tribe gallows tree, and held all those brothers and sisters who uphold the heathen hammer and who strive to be that light or that guiding force within Wotanism. Hell.